Hello, friends. We are here to review a new show. I know y'all didn't know I was doing it because I didn't announce it, but we're here. We are doing The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Season 13, Episode 1. I started watching Beverly Hills in Garcelle's second season, so I want to say that that was the season before last. Season 12. I'm not, super engulfed in like the history of all the ladies and everything like that. Everybody on the show, I feel like I have a decent understanding of, but just letting you know, like I don't go way back to the day one with these ladies. So we start out the season in what I think is kind of a very weird way. We're with for two reasons, I guess. We're with Dorit and gorgeous home, like just not the most entertaining, but whatever. And for the second reason, it's because she's doing this healing retreat, which comes out of nowhere because we're on the season premiere. So I don't know. I mean, they did a decent job as the episode went on, just basically alluding to, they want to heal and all of the issues that everybody was basically referring to as the episode rolled out basically stemmed from last season. So okay, I guess that's not my favorite way to start off the theme of the season, or at least just the premiere, if that's what it's gonna be, like healing from what happened last season. But if it's happening in a way to just kind of do a catch up, get it done, and get it out the door, fine. But I'm hoping this doesn't just become like this, like overarching theme, because I'm just not, I don't care. First interesting confessional I see is that of Erica Jane, and she is obviously referencing last season, which she should just definitely leave in the past. Just not a great season for her in my opinion. But anyway, she's saying, that she was definitely vicious, again referring to her behavior last season. And she says she feels like she's, basically coming in on her own island, and references the fact that she, doesn't have her friend, singular, and she's referring to Lisa Rinna. I found that to be interesting because obviously those of us with eyes and ears noticed that there was a group last season, and maybe before that, but mostly last season, of, Rinna and Erica Jane and Kyle Ish and Dorit Ish. And they kind of like enabled each other at the end of the day. So I loosely would have expected her to have more friends than that of Lisa Rinna. But we all know that that was just an alliance of convenience at the end of the day. It's followed up, though, by something else that kind of caught me, so I guess it made a little bit more sense, and that Dorit has some instant shade for Erica, which I definitely did not mind, because when it pertains to Erica, I'll have to let you guys know ahead of time, I have difficulty with her level of honesty and accountability. She troubles me quite a bit. So when she says things, I just don't tend to digest them. So of course she comes on, actually not even of course, because I didn't expect this, but Erica comes on and she addresses her weight loss, which we've all been seeing, and she says that it's because she's taking hormones. Could be true. I'm nobody's doctor, but I think that we as a people had collectively assumed that it was the Ozempic because it's going around like Halloween candy these days amongst the people. And, Dorit says the same thing. She's like, our hormones spelled OZ, she spells out Ozempic. That was an interesting dynamic to see. Obviously, we know, there, I wouldn't even call it a beef, but there's some discourse between, I guess, Dorit and Erica because of BravoCon. We should all know by now, because it kind of, when BravoCon alerts last year, of course, are kind of happening like live on Twitter. And so, there was a segment, and Erica was asked, which marriage do you think is going to go off the rails next, or is on the way off the rails, or whatever the heck, something negative as it pertains to somebody's marriage. Erica said Dorit and PK, which was weird to me. Again, I don't know a lot about these people besides what I saw in the last couple seasons. I've never really gotten too much of an inkling about their marriage. Again, it's not too super interesting to me over there, besides the decor of the home and the beautiful backyard and the indoor outdoor living kind of floor plan thing. I really enjoy that. So, I don't know much about what goes on over there, but Erica feels as though their marriage is on the rocks. We're having this healing segment, and I guess it's time to air grievances. And Dorit says, Erica, I was really hurt by you, by what you said at BravoCon. I can appreciate the fact that, Dorit is seemingly activated this early, I guess. I've never really seen that from her for real. That wasn't underneath the thumb of like Lisa Rinna type of thing. So, it's interesting to see it, and to see it, versus somebody that was in her previous alliance. So, okay. But my only thing is, like, I'm trying to see how involved I want to get in it, because even when it occurred during BravoCon and it was aired live, I was thinking like, well, it's not gonna go anywhere. Like, Dorit's under that thumb, and she's not gonna do anything. She'll probably address Erica and say she's upset, but it's not gonna be a big deal. They're gonna brush it off. So we'll see. But both of them did seem to kind of just be like, toward each other in this premiere. So, we will see. In typical Erica fashion, what we do know is that Erica is going to be Erica. And, Dorit tells her she's upset, and Erica's like, well, I was asked the question. I didn't really want to answer it. We get the clip, and Erica's kind of like, at BravoCon, she's kind of like doing that type of face, like with a little smile in it. And she's like, I don't really want to answer that question. Specifically, though, because I listen to words, she never said, as she alleges to Dorit, that she said she didn't want to answer the question and she asked not to answer the question. What she said was, in the clip, she said, I don't want to answer that question because I'm going to feel bad. So that felt a little bit of shade to me. Like, she's indicating that she definitely had an answer, but she was going to feel guilty for saying it. So that, was a little bit of mess to me. And then, she said what she said. And Dorit's like, well, girl, you look like you didn't have a problem saying it to me. And I will have to agree with that. So Dorit gets more points there. And then Erica's story changes. And she's like, well, I'm a showman. And so I did what the people wanted me to do. Like, I gave them a show. And it's like, well, that's weird, because it's like, isn't that your friend? And it's like, so now you're being performative, and not only performative, but like in a negative way. Like, why don't you be performative and be a good friend to me? Like, make people actually believe that we have a genuine friendship and not just an alliance up under Lisa Rinna. But, now you're going to be performative and say that my marriage is ending. That's pretty weird. Ultimately, Dorit's like, I thought that you would have led with an apology. I don't know why Dorit would have thought that. I think literally anybody in the world, even if they just met Erica like 5 minutes before that, would have known that Erica wasn't going to apologize. Erica's like, well, I'm not making an excuse or anything. I'm just giving you, my explanation as to what happened. And, typical Erica thing. Like, it's kind of like dating. I feel like when I listen to Erica speak, I'm listening to the ghost of all my exes. Like, she does that very well. I like how Dorit ultimately called her out, though, and let her know, like, we know you were going through a lot last season. We get it, but you were, basically acting out and being mean-spirited, which I think is an accurate way to describe Erica from what I've seen on the show. Erica then gets into again, and I'm not even being funny, it's just very hard for me to authenticate things that Erica's doing. But she gets into an emotional moment, and she says, yeah, last year was hard, and that's when she's felt her lowest and the most alone. And so, yeah, she apologizes for being, quote, rough and vicious last season. Oh, okay. Whatever. We then move on to Kyle. Something I really didn't expect to hear too much about, just because I think we all know that Kathy's not coming back to the show this season. I don't know if she did a little taint of a bit, but I think it was confirmed that she's not coming back in any capacity. I don't know. Either way, I thought it was weird that they would be referencing last season as it pertained to the Kathy thing so much as well. At that time, Kyle she seemed to have been upset with both sides of the thing, meaning Kathy and then like the Erica and the Rena of it all, because they were basically spearheading the Kathy's like smear campaign in Housewives fashion. You know, at the end of the day, it just felt like they were trying to do a Kathy takedown. You know, it is what it is. That's what it was. So it seemed like she was upset on both ends, but now she's saying, you know, she's so devastated and she's so upset with Kathy, and she feels like, you know, Kathy is the one that started this, and really who she's upset with as it pertains to the group is Sutton and Dorit, because she's known them longer. Like, you know, she's trying to say basically that they didn't hold Kathy accountable, and she alludes to, not for Sutton, but she alludes to for Dorit more specifically that, you know, maybe Dorit just wants to be friends with Kathy because of the status of it all. And it was so weird just to see this juxtaposition, because I didn't necessarily see it coming. Definitely hit me out of left field. And then it's also just weird to see her have completely abolished the whole issue that she had with Erica and Rena, who brought this stuff up. Like, we had a whole scene of her breaking down at the finale and then at the reunion when she's like, you know, this is only hurting me. You guys are bringing these things out. Like, it feels like they were almost breaking the fourth wall the whole time. Like, she was kind of acknowledging that they were attempting to do a takedown of Kathy. And Kathy was almost acknowledging, like, girl, I came on this show and you're allowing these girls to do a takedown of Kathy. That's the implication. That's the inference that I was getting from trying to read between the lines of that stuff. So I feel like it was made very clear that Erica and Rena were on some weird stuff as it pertains to Kathy. Not saying that what Kathy did was right and allegedly talking about Kyle, but to me, I just really don't care about that. I have to be honest. Just like, that's your sister at the end of the day, and you say you're used to that treatment, so fine. I feel like you should deal with that, and maybe Kathy does have some fault in that. But then also, like, why are you not looking at these ladies that are supposed to be your friends and they're trying to do a housewives takedown, a typical housewives takedown? Garcelle says the same thing. She's like, I'm confused. She's like, you know, like, I felt for you, but I'm just confused by you because you're not going after the people that were going after your family. Exactly. So, you know, Kyle's on some weird stuff, but that's typical Kyle as well. So we get to the personal scene of Sutton, who I love, and I like her story that I guess is going to be the thing for this season, where she's talking about, you know, she wants to show her ex-husband that she can take care of herself, and, you know, she wants to show her children, she wants to be independent. And I like the dynamic of, like, her acknowledging, like, yes, she gets spousal support, and they showed the tea that she gets about $300,000 a month, I believe it was, and she also received some type of lump sum settlement in the divorce. But she always was, you know, especially last season, she was also always alluding to the fact that she was well taken care of as it pertained to that divorce settlement. So, you know, we already kind of knew that, but I like that she's saying, like, yes, I have this, but I want to be able to do it on my own. I think that's an interesting story for, like, a housewives thing, and I can't necessarily say that I've seen many housewives stories really play out like that. So if they do it well, her storyline well, I think it'll be an interesting one to follow. It was really fun watching her with Jennifer Tilly. You know, anybody that pays attention to, like, Sutton, and then, like, Sutton did Watch What Happens Live last season with Jennifer Tilly, they're good friends. So it's just fun to see. I just feel like, for whatever reason, it feels like they're giving more context to Sutton, I guess. Like, she always kind of felt like she's gonna be in the mess, but also she kind of felt like comedic relief sometimes. It didn't always feel like she was really getting much personal. So I like that they're making room for that now. That's what it feels like to me. We get, again, like, this is gonna start, like, you guys are gonna start to think that this is a riddle, like, this is a joke, but I'm being so serious and I feel it in my gut. Like, watching Erica do things, it's just so hard for me to say, like, this is real. Erica is meeting with her therapist, and she had the therapist last season, and she says she's been going to therapy for 2 years. So cool. And, you know, she talks about a lot about the Tom stuff. I'm kind of over the Tom stuff, kind of been over the Tom stuff since last season, so I don't have much to say about that. And I don't think that it's going to be something that comes up a lot this season, to be honest. But then she leads on to, which I'm assuming is probably going to play a role in this season. I don't know. I feel like we saw it for a reason. She's basically her therapist is talking to her about empathy, and Erica's saying, "Well, how do I get that? Like, how do I have empathy?" And without being pessimistic, because I just don't really care for Erica much, I was sitting and actually reflecting and wondering, like, is empathy something that is innate? Is that something that people are born with? Or is that something that you need to learn or develop? Or is it both? Like, is it that you can be born with it or you can develop it later? Like, I was just wondering what type of, like, what is empathy really? Like, is that something that, because she's asking, like, how do I get that? So, and it's not that I believe that she doesn't have some level of empathy. I'm just wondering, is it possible that there are people in the world that just don't have empathy, and why is that? Is it because they never learned it? Is it because they weren't born with it? You know what I'm saying? That's kind of what I was wondering. But as it pertains to Erica, it's definitely interesting her saying, what is empathy? It's a level of acknowledging that she does not have empathy. I do think that Erica, after some time of sitting with herself and listening to the noise, she can acknowledge things, but it's always in a backhanded way. Just like when she was just getting into it with Dorit, she had to get into it with her first and be dismissive first, but then admit, okay, well, I was vicious last season, and Dorit called me mean spirited, so okay, fine. And now it's kind of like, how do you get empathy without saying I don't have empathy and I didn't have empathy last season for what was going on? She's just saying, how do you get that, right? Like, how do you get that moving forward? So, okay. I'll give her that. I do, not all negatives for Erica. I do feel like Erica, and again, I don't know her from way back when. I only seen her for a couple seasons. So I do think it's possible that Erica has some likable qualities, and she just, in this environment on this show, she just feels like she has to be on the defense, so that's why she tends to act like that. So I think that that's completely possible. It doesn't make it okay, but that's something that I will take into consideration. I thought that the Kathy talk was going to be limited to the therapist thing, but now, like, Kyle's talking about it more in her personal scene with Mauricio, and she was on Watch What Happens Live as well, and she said that they talked about it throughout the season. So it seems like, very unfortunately, this is going to be something we keep hearing about, and I just feel like it's going to lack substance because Kathy won't be there. There's only so much of hearing Kyle saying how hurt she was by Kathy that we can really digest without any type of, are we ever going to turn the corner on it? You know what I'm saying? So I'm not feeling that. She saw her at Sutton's holiday party, and things were, what did she say? They were civil, but she doesn't want to be mistreated anymore. If that's her experience, and obviously I can't take that away from her, I'm wondering what it's rooted in, because mistreated is a big word. Like, so I'm wondering, like, where that comes from. I just feel like it can't all be rooted from the Kathy thing. Like, that seems a little bit extreme to me. Obviously, we only see what we see on television, but in terms of last season, what we saw on the show, if somebody asked me whether was the word mistreatment that should be used, I would not use that word. So I'm wondering, like, it has to be more things, right? So I'm just wondering what has really gotten Kyle to this place. We're back at Doree and PK. I'm not really invested in this relationship. But I mean, it is interesting that she's saying, they had a difficult year. I feel like that's such, like, housewives script. Like, obviously they tend to go into some more detail, but they always kind of started off like that, and it's just like, what does that mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, that just seems so vague, and it's just like, are you together or are you not? Obviously, I guess they don't want to just put it out there because maybe that's going to be their storyline, and if they just say it up front, they feel like it can't grow or develop from there, so they want to give us this suspense of like, oh my god, we had such a rough year, and they kind of like spell it out for a couple episodes, and sometimes it, like, when you finally get to the crux of what was wrong, it's like he gave me a splinter on Thursday, and that was my storyline this season. So, I'm interested to see, like, what the heck they're even talking about. I really don't feel like I got any context, but even when she's talking to Kyle about it, she's very clear that nothing happened, like infidelity or anything like that. She's just like, at a time when I needed him to be there for me, he was not there. An interesting characterization. Like, just like Kyle, I would like to know more about what that really means to her. I'm assuming it just feels like, because she's talking about the previous year, right? So it just feels like she's relating it to the time where they were robbed, and she was going through a hard time, and maybe she felt like PK wasn't really there for her. I'm assuming that that's what it is. And if that is what it is, what does him being there for you after the robbery mean, right? Like, or is there more to it? Like, I also feel like there would have to be more to that as well. Like, I just kind of don't understand. Like, right now, both, like, Kyle's "I don't want to be mistreated" and Dorit's PK isn't being there for me, they just feel shallow at the end of the day. And it almost feels like this is kind of what I had for this season, so we're gonna, like, make this work for a little while. That's all I'm saying. It's only episode 1, we'll see. But the way that it was introduced felt very shallow. There is now, like, the scene with Garcelle and her kids, and obviously there was a pretty lengthy clip that was released on the social media. So we had seen that, and basically, they're talking about. I'm sorry, to me, like, this story feels a little shallow as well. But they're just talking about the fact that Garcelle has always worked a lot, and obviously their parents are divorced, so they go back and forth. And then Garcelle is basically saying, at this age, they're 15. She's saying, you guys don't allow me to, be a parent, be a mother. And they're like, well, that's because when we really needed you to be a mother when we were younger, you weren't really around as much. Now we're a lot older. We can kind of take care of ourselves. One of the twins was saying that more than the other. Not that that can't be true. All these stories can be true. You know what I'm saying? And they are all realistic stories. They just feel shallow. Like, it just doesn't feel like something that can be, like, you're introducing it to me in the premiere. So that makes me have to assume that this is the storyline, the way that it's being introduced to me. In the event that that's the case, I just don't see any of these stories being able to fill a season or even develop to a place where you can produce a full season. But we will see. It's important information to know, but do I think, and who knows that they're doing this, but do I think that they should make that these storylines for the season? Absolutely not, and I would hope that they're not doing that. The scene with Kyle and Mauricio, she's also admitted that she was irritated, and while she was filming with Mauricio, and their dynamics weird. And she did acknowledge in her confessional, it does feel like she's being, I can't say that she never was, but I'm noticing it more now. It does feel like she's being very, like, a matter of fact. Like, it just is what it is. This is how I feel, and I don't mind that. I tend to be that type of person as well. So she's very much so acknowledging that, like, marriages go through those phases where, like, everything your partner does gets on your nerves, and I bet. So, I can appreciate her acknowledging that, and I can tell that that's just kind of where she is with Maurice. So it just feels like she's just not feeling him at all. And, it seems like she's kind of, what do people say, checked out. They have this weird conversation about, he doesn't know that she has all 5 of her tattoos. He only knows about 3 of them. And she's like, well, pay closer attention, kind of passive aggressively. And they just seem like they're playing like a tennis match almost. And then they get into this weird It's this weird hostility to their conversation of him saying, like, you don't need to get any more tattoos. Something that I feel like would have been a playful, bantery conversation in the past is now kind of like hostile between the two of them. Because again, I think Kyle's just kind of sick of hearing his voice almost. It's kind of the vibe that it was giving me. I'm not too, I know that there are people that are like, oh my God, I'm so sad about the breakdown of their marriage, including some of my friends. Again, for the 45th time, like, I don't know too much about it, and I'm not really, like, enveloped in it and, like, invested. So, But yeah, it was just overall, it was just very a very cringy conversation between the two of them, and it almost just felt like I just want to know where Kyle's coming from, right? Because, like I said, there has to be more, but she just ends this weird conversation basically by saying, like, I'm just at a place where I don't have to explain myself to anybody. Like, which was interesting because she says, like, I've done the thing where I communicate and try to keep all the things together and keep the control, and things still get messed up. So, now she feels like she doesn't want to do that anymore. She doesn't want to be held responsible to what everybody else is thinking and all that. She just wants her to do her thing. And, I think, that's relatable, but I'm just wondering where it all really comes from. That's all. And I hope that it develops itself and we get all of the full details. I don't just want to hear, like, Kathy hurt my feelings last season. Like, what's going on, baby? That's all I'm saying. But I do think it was, it was interesting to see her like say that on camera to his face, like I don't have to explain myself to anybody, not even you. And he was kind of like that's for me, those are like very definitive words to say to a partner. In actuality, like yes, like technically, like yes, absolutely not. Like you don't have to answer to anybody at all, right? Like you have free will to do whatever you want, but it comes off as, for me, when you say that to a partner, it comes off as like you're not even considered. Like I don't even want your consideration. There's no conversation about it. Because for me, I feel like yeah, you don't have to answer to your partner, but you still consider them and include them in on the operation at hand, right? Like even if it's just your 5 tattoos, because at the end of the day, you guys are partners. So you can definitely go get your tattoo if you want to get it, but you still consider your partner at the end of the day. That's how I feel. But I think telling your partner to their face, like I don't have to answer anybody, including you, feels like the door is closed. Like that's how it feels. So it's interesting, and I just want to know again how we got there. Show your work. Show your work. And I also think that it was because I was getting a sense of this. I'm like, is she kind of like, I probably wouldn't have used the word rebel. I don't know if I had the word, but that was a vibe that I was getting. And, it's interesting to hear him say, like, that's fine. I support that, but just don't rebel. And she very adamantly was just like, I'm going to be very clear right now. She's cursing and everything. So I'm like, she's really pissed off. She's just like, yeah, like, I'm going to be very clear. I'm not rebelling. I'm just being true to myself. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, okay, sure, Jan. I thought that it was an interesting premiere. I just don't want it to be too referential and too much like last season at the end of the day. Like last season was its thing and it was good, but it was just a lot that I just feel like I thought that we were all of the understanding that we were trying to pick up and move forward and do something a little bit new. So, we're gonna see what happens. But as of right now, if I had to judge it just off the premiere, I would say that the storylines are giving a little bit shallow. They're definitely leaning on the shield of last season quite a lot. And it doesn't feel like there's enough there. And I don't know how girls feel about Crystal, but I like Crystal, and I'm trying to figure out why I wasn't getting her personal story in the premiere. It's weird to me. We'll see. Next episode.